Imagine building one of the most beautiful cars in the world, becoming the official car of James Bond, and still coming within inches of disappearing forever. Not once. Not twice. But 7 different times. How did a company admired by celebrities, billionaires, and car enthusiasts repeatedly find itself on the edge of collapse? And more importantly, how did it survive when so many legendary automakers disappeared forever? This is the incredible story of Aston Martin. When people hear the name Aston Martin, they immediately think of elegance, speed, handcrafted luxury, and James Bond. For over a century, the company has represented the very best of British automotive engineering. Every Aston Martin is designed to feel special, combining timeless design with powerful performance. But behind that glamorous image lies a very different reality. While the world admired Aston Martin's cars, the company itself was fighting one financial crisis after another. Throughout its history, Aston Martin has changed owners multiple times, struggled with debt, survived economic disasters, and repeatedly faced bankruptcy. The story begins in 1913, when Lionel Martin and Robert Bamford founded the company in England. Their dream was simple but ambitious: build beautiful sports cars capable of winning races while delivering unmatched luxury. The name Aston Martin came from Aston Hill, where Lionel Martin competed in hill climb races, combined with his own surname. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. Only a year after the company was founded, World War I broke out. Production stopped almost immediately as resources were redirected toward the war effort. Like many young businesses of the time, Aston Martin lost valuable years before it even had the chance to establish itself. When production resumed after the war, the company faced another challenge: money. Building luxury sports cars required enormous investment, but demand was limited. Unlike mass-market manufacturers, Aston Martin built only a handful of vehicles each year. Every car required skilled craftsmen, expensive materials, and countless hours of hand assembly. Costs remained extremely high, while sales remained relatively low. By the mid-1920s, the company had already fallen into serious financial trouble. Investors pulled out, funding disappeared, and Aston Martin entered one of its earliest financial crises. New owners stepped in, hoping to save the brand, but the problems never truly disappeared. Then came the Great Depression of the 1930s. Around the world, economies collapsed, businesses failed, and unemployment soared. Luxury cars became one of the last things people wanted to buy. Aston Martin's already small customer base became even smaller. Once again, the company struggled to survive. As if that wasn't enough, World War II brought production to another halt. Instead of building sports cars, factories shifted toward supporting the war effort. When peace finally returned, Aston Martin faced the enormous challenge of rebuilding almost from scratch. In 1947, industrialist David Brown purchased the company. That decision would change Aston Martin forever. Brown invested heavily in engineering, production, and new model development. Under his leadership, Aston Martin introduced the legendary DB series. Those 2 letters, DB, stood for David Brown, and they would become some of the most famous initials in automotive history. The turning point arrived in 1964 with the release of the James Bond film Goldfinger. Sean Connery drove the Aston Martin DB5, instantly transforming the company into a global icon. The car wasn't just fast or beautiful, it became a symbol of sophistication, intelligence, and adventure. Almost overnight, Aston Martin achieved worldwide recognition. Millions of people dreamed of owning the same car as the world's most famous spy. The partnership with James Bond became one of the greatest examples of product placement in history, creating brand recognition that advertising money alone could never buy. But popularity didn't solve Aston Martin's financial problems. Despite its growing reputation, the company continued producing only a limited number of vehicles. Every new model required massive investment in engineering, safety technology, engines, and manufacturing. Larger competitors could spread those costs across hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of vehicles. Aston Martin couldn't. During the 1970s oil crisis, fuel prices skyrocketed, and consumers became less interested in high-performance sports cars. Sales dropped dramatically. Once again, Aston Martin found itself fighting for survival. Ownership changed hands repeatedly. Every new investor believed they had the strategy that would finally make Aston Martin consistently profitable. Yet the same problem kept returning. Building exclusive luxury cars was incredibly expensive, and selling only a few thousand vehicles each year made generating sustainable profits extremely difficult. In the late 1980s, Ford recognized Aston Martin's potential and gradually acquired the company. Ford invested heavily, modernizing production facilities and improving manufacturing quality. Those investments led to one of Aston Martin's biggest successes, the DB7. The DB7 became the company's best-selling model at the time and introduced Aston Martin to a new generation of buyers. For a while, it seemed as though the company had finally found financial stability. But even with Ford's backing, profitability remained a challenge. Eventually, Ford sold Aston Martin to a group of investors in 2007 as part of its broader restructuring strategy. A decade later, Aston Martin entered another new chapter. In 2018, the company went public on the London Stock Exchange. Investors hoped Aston Martin would follow Ferrari's path and become one of the world's most valuable luxury automotive companies. Instead, reality proved far more difficult. Sales failed to meet expectations. Debt continued to rise. The share price collapsed, wiping out billions in market value. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, disrupting global supply chains and reducing luxury spending across many markets. Aston Martin once again stood dangerously close to another financial collapse. This time, rescue came from Canadian billionaire Lawrence Stroll. Leading a consortium of investors, he injected hundreds of millions of dollars into the company and became executive chairman. His vision focused on rebuilding Aston Martin's financial foundation while strengthening its global brand. One of the company's smartest decisions was expanding its partnership with Mercedes-Benz. Rather than spending billions developing every technology independently, Aston Martin gained access to advanced engines, electronics, and engineering expertise. This significantly reduced development costs while allowing the company to compete with much larger rivals. Another major shift came with the launch of the Aston Martin DBX, the company's first luxury SUV. While traditional sports cars remained the heart of the brand, SUVs had become one of the fastest-growing and most profitable segments in the automotive industry. The DBX attracted new customers and created an important new source of revenue. Today, Aston Martin continues investing in electrification, Formula One, and next-generation luxury performance vehicles. The company understands that the automotive industry is changing rapidly, and survival will require innovation just as much as tradition. Yet competition has never been tougher. Ferrari continues generating industry-leading profits. Porsche dominates the luxury SUV market. Lamborghini keeps setting new sales records. Every major manufacturer is investing billions into electric vehicles and advanced technology. For Aston Martin, the challenge remains the same as it was more than a century ago: how do you preserve exclusivity while building a financially sustainable business? Perhaps that's what makes Aston Martin's story so remarkable. Most companies don't survive one financial collapse. Aston Martin survived 7. It endured wars, recessions, oil crises, ownership changes, collapsing stock prices, and global pandemics, yet it continues building some of the most beautiful automobiles in the world. Its greatest achievement isn't simply creating iconic cars. It's proving that sometimes, the strongest luxury brand isn't the one that never falls. It's the one that always finds a way to rise again.